Forgotten in a blizzard by her future husband, she was saved by the last man she expected. Something happened in the Wyoming territory that winter, something no one in this valley ever spoke about again. It began with a storm that sounded like the sky was being ripped open and a stranger who collapsed at a lonely homestead doorstep, half frozen and half alive. But what she carried with her wasn't just fear or desperation. It was a secret, one powerful enough to turn neighbors against each other, topple a king of cattle, and change the fate of a man who had sworn he needed no one. By the time the snow melted, nothing in the valley would ever be the same. You learn to respect the silence in the Wyoming territory. It isn't the peaceful silence of a library or a church. It is a heavy, predatory thing. It waits for you to make a mistake. But in December of 1888, the silence was gone, replaced by a noise that sounded like the end of the world. The wind wasn't just blowing, it was screaming. It tore through the valley with a violence that made my cabin shudder on its foundation. I was 34 years old, a man built of rough timber and river stone, much like the home I sat in. I had lived alone for 5 years ever since I staked this claim, and I told myself that the solitude was a choice. I told myself I preferred the company of my horses to the complications of people. I was a liar. I sat by the stone hearth, the fire popping aggressively as it fought the draft coming down the chimney. I was oiling my Winchester, the smell of gun grease and wood smoke filling the small room. My dog Buster, an old blue heeler with one torn ear, was whining, pacing between the door and the fire. "Hush now," I murmured, rubbing his flank. "Just the wind, old boy. Just the winter trying to get in." But Buster growled low in his throat, his hackles rising. Then I heard it. It was a sound that had no business existing in a storm of that magnitude. It was a rhythmic, desperate thumping against the heavy oak planks of the door. Thud. 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 I froze, my hand tightening on the rifle stock. No neighbor would be out in this. The nearest homestead was 5 miles east, and Old Man Miller knew better than to challenge a whiteout. A bear, a wolf, the sound came again, weaker this time. A scratching like a branch. Or a fingernail. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice sounding rusty to my own ears. The wind shrieked in answer. I stood up, the rifle heavy in my hands. Caution is the currency of survival out here, but something, a pull in my gut, a whisper of providence, made me move. I lifted the heavy iron bar and cracked the door. The force of the gale nearly ripped the door from its hinges. A wall of white obliterated the world. The cold hit me like a physical blow, instantly freezing the moisture in my nose. But there in the swirling void, something fell forward. It was not a beast. It was a woman. She collapsed against my legs, a heap of dark blue wool and ice. She was so frozen she didn't even shiver. Her hair had come loose from its pins, hanging in solid icy ropes around a face that was the terrifying color of skim milk. "Lord Almighty," I gasped. I dropped the rifle and scooped her up. She weighed nothing. It was like lifting a bundle of dry sticks wrapped in a quilt. I kicked the door shut with my heel, throwing the bolt back in place to seal out the demon night. I carried her to the rug before the hearth. Up close, the situation was worse than I thought. Her eyebrows were frosted white. Her lips were a shocking shade of violet. She wasn't unconscious, but she was close to the final sleep, her eyes rolling back in her head. "Ma'am?" I tapped her cheek. It felt like marble. "Can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered. I saw a flash of gray eyes, the color of a storm cloud, before they closed again. "Freezing," she whispered. The word was a ghost of a sound. I looked at her dress. It was fine wool quality stuff, but it was soaked through and frozen stiff. It was a suit of ice armor, trapping the cold against her skin. If I didn't get it off her, the fire wouldn't matter. She would die of hypothermia right here on my floor. I stood up, panic rising in my throat. I was a bachelor. I was a man who held honor above all else. The thought of undressing a helpless woman made my face burn with shame, but the thought of burying her in the frozen ground made my blood run cold. "Miss," I said, leaning close to her ear, speaking firmly. I need you to listen to me. Your clothes are frozen. I have to remove them or you will die. Do you understand? Her eyes opened again wide with fear. She tried to clutch the collar of her dress, but her fingers were useless claws. I swear to you, I said, my voice shaking with intensity. I will not look. I will turn my head. But we have to get this wet wool off you. She stared at me, searching my face for any sign of the predator. I don't know what she saw, perhaps just a terrified farmer with grease on his hands, but she gave a tiny, jerky nod. I moved quickly. I grabbed my thickest quilt and a clean flannel work shirt from my chest. I turned my back to her. I'm going to cut the laces, I said to the wall. Forgive me. I reached back blindly with my hunting knife. I worked by feel, slicing the frozen laces of her bodice, hating every second of the intimacy. I peeled the stiff fabric from her shoulders, keeping my eyes squeezed shut, and immediately threw the quilt over her. Get your arms into the shirt, I commanded, my back still turned. Can you move? I heard a whimper of frustration. I can't feel my hands. I cursed softly. I turned around. She was huddled under the quilt, her bare shoulders shaking so violently her teeth were clicking like castanets. All right, I said gently. All right, right? I helped her guide her arms into the oversized flannel sleeves. I buttoned it to her chin, my large, calloused fingers clumsy with the small buttons. I pulled the quilt tight around her, cocooning her like a butterfly. Then I pulled the sodden dress away and threw it in the corner. I went to the stove, my hands shaking as I poured coffee into a tin cup. I added a heavy splash of whiskey from the bottle I kept for toothaches and bad nights. Drink, I said, kneeling beside her. She tried to take the cup, but her hands were vibrating. I held it for her, tipping it to her blue lips. She coughed as the whiskey hit her throat, but the color began to return to her cheeks, a faint pink bloom in the white. Better? I asked. She nodded, wrapping her hands around the hot tin. She looked around the cabin, her eyes darting from the gun on the floor to the dog and finally resting on me. Who are you? She rasped. Name's Elias, I said. Elias Thorne. You're at my homestead. Safe. She closed her eyes and a single tear leaked out. I thought I was dead. I saw the light. I thought it was heaven. Not heaven, I said, poking the fire. Just a cabin in Wyoming. Now tell me, miss, who are you? And why were you walking in a blizzard that would kill a buffalo? She took a deep breath, the shuddering slowly subsiding. My name is Clara. Clara Whitmore. I came from Boston. Boston, I frowned. That's a long way to walk. She didn't smile. I came on the train. I arrived this morning. I was supposed to be married. I stared at her. Married to who? She lowered her gaze to the cup. To Mr. Marcus Vane. The name hit the room like a curse. Marcus Vane. The cattle king of the valley. A man who owned 10,000 acres and 50 men and possessed a soul as black as coal. Vane, I repeated. You're Marcus Vane's bride. I was supposed to be, she corrected. Her voice gained a sudden sharp edge of bitterness. I answered an advertisement. A gentleman of means seeks a refined lady for companionship and family. That's what it said. And he met me at the station. She looked up and the anger in her eyes was startling. He walked around me like he was buying a heifer at auction.
He pinched my arm.
He checked my teeth. He told me I was false advertising. My jaw tightened. He said I was too thin, too pale. He said I looked like a wilting eastern flower that wouldn't last a winter. He said he wanted a breeder, not a burden. I felt a heat in my chest that had nothing to do with the fire. So he sent you away. He drove me to the crossroads, she whispered. He handed me an envelope with $10 in it. He said contract void. Then he pointed down the road and said town is 5 miles that way. If you run, you might beat the snow. I stood up, unable to sit still. He left you. He saw the sky turning gray, he felt the wind, and he left a woman alone on the road. He laughed as he rode away, she said, her voice trembling. He laughed. I walked to the window, staring at the frost, patterning the glass. I wanted to kill him. It was a calm, rational desire. I wanted to ride to the Circle V ranch and put a bullet in Marcus Vane. I tried to walk, Clara said softly, but the white came so fast. I couldn't see my own feet. I wandered. I don't know for how long. Then I saw your window. I turned back to her. She looked so small in my big chair wrapped in my quilt. But beneath the exhaustion, I saw something else. Grit. She had walked 5 miles in hell and survived. You're safe now, Clara, I said. The storm will last a few days. You stay here. When it clears, I'll take you to town. And Marcus Vane will answer for this. She looked at me, her gray eyes searching. You are a stranger, Mr. Thorne. Why would you help me because I said I'm not Marcus Vane? Chapter 2. The thaw. The storm besieged us for 3 days. There is a peculiar intimacy that forms when two people are trapped in a 16 by 16 cabin while the world tries to kill them outside. The wind never stopped howling, creating a wall of sound that made the quiet inside the cabin feel sacred. I gave her my bed in the corner, hanging a blanket from the rafters to give her privacy. I slept on a pallet of furs by the firebuster curled at my back. The first morning I woke to the smell of coffee and frying bacon. It disoriented me. For 5 years I had woken to cold silence. I sat up. Clara was standing by the stove. She was wearing her dress. It had dried by the fire, though it was wrinkled and stained with watermarks. She had pinned her hair up with a few loose pins she found in her bag. Morning, she said, turning to me. She looked unsure, like she expected me to scold her for touching my things. Morning, I grunted, rubbing the sleep from my face. You didn't have to do that. Guests don't cook. I am not a guest, Elias, she said firmly. I am a refugee, and I pay my way. I found the flour. I hope you don't mind biscuits. I stood and stretched my joints, popping. I haven't had a biscuit that wasn't hard as a rock in 2 years. We sat at the rough-hewn table. The biscuits were light, fluffy clouds. The bacon was crisp. I ate like a starving man. So I said, wiping crumbs from my beard, Boston, what makes a refined lady leave the city for the wild? She held her coffee cup with both hands, staring into the dark liquid. Desperation, mostly. I find that hard to believe. My father was a shipping magnate, she began, her voice steady. Or so everyone thought. When he died 2 years ago, we found out he'd been living on credit for a decade. The banks took the house, the furniture, even my mother's jewelry. I was left with nothing but my name, and a name doesn't buy bread. You have no family, none that would claim a pauper, she said. I worked as a seamstress for a year. My fingers bled every day. Then I saw the advertisement. I thought I could be useful out here. I thought I could build a home. She looked at the log walls. I didn't know I was being sold as livestock. You aren't livestock, I said quietly. Tell that to Mr. Vane. She looked at me. And you? Why is a man like you alone? You're not old. You're not. Unpleasant to look at. I chuckled dryly. Careful, ma'am. You'll turn my head. I leaned back. I came out here for the silence. After the war, well, people were too loud. I wanted land that didn't scream. And the loneliness, she asked. Doesn't it eat at you? I looked at her. The truth was poised on my tongue. Yes. It eats me alive every night. A man gets used to anything, I lied. Over the next 2 days, the awkwardness melted away. We fell into a domestic rhythm that felt dangerous because of how right it felt. She mended my shirts. I taught her how to play cribbage. We read from my small collection of books, Dickens mostly. She read aloud to me while I whittled by the fire. Her voice was melodic, soothing a balm to parts of my soul I had forgotten existed. On the third evening, as the wind began to die down, I found her looking in the mirror I had nailed to the wall. She was touching her face, tracing the lines of worry. "He was right," she whispered. "I am not beautiful. Not like the women in the magazines." I stopped whittling. "Clara." She turned. "Marcus Vane is a blind fool," I said. "He wanted a doll to put on a shelf. He didn't see the steel in you." I stood and walked over to her. The air between us grew thick. "You walked through a blizzard," I said, my voice low. "You survived the loss of your world. You have a fire in you that could warm this whole valley. That is what beauty is out here. It's not about silk and paint. It's about light." She looked up at me, her lips parted slightly. "Elias." "I'm just a homesteader," I said, my voice rough with emotion. "I have dirt under my fingernails and I smell like pine and horses. But if I had met you at that station, I wouldn't have looked at your teeth. I would have thanked God for sending an angel." A flush rose on her cheeks. She reached out her hand, hovering, then gently resting on my forearm. Her touch burned through my shirt. "I don't want to go to town," she whispered. "I don't want you to go," I admitted. "But we have to. Vane will come looking. He'll want his money back or he'll want to make sure you're gone. We need to settle this. He will destroy you," she said fearfully. "He has power. Let him try," I said. "I've faced worse things than a rich man with a temper." Chapter 3. The Wolf at the Door. The fourth morning brought a silence so profound it hurt the ears. The sun broke over the mountains, turning the miles of snow into a blinding sheet of diamonds. I was outside shoveling a path to the barn when I saw them. 3 dark specks on the horizon, cutting a black line through the white perfection. "Clara!" I called out. "Get inside." She appeared at the door, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She saw the riders and went pale. "It's him." I leaned my shovel against the wall and grabbed the Winchester from the porch. "Go inside. Lock the door. Don't open it unless I tell you." "I won't hide," she said, lifting her chin. "I am done hiding." She stepped out onto the porch, wrapping her shawl tight. I didn't have time to argue. I stood at the bottom of the steps, planting my feet, the rifle cradled loosely in my arm. The riders approached. Marcus Vane was in the lead, riding a massive black stallion that looked as mean as he was. He wore a fur coat that probably cost more than my entire homestead. Flanking him were Sheriff Miller, a good man with a weak spine, and a hired gun named Silas, a man with dead eyes. Vane pulled his horse up 10 yards away. He looked at me, then up at Clara. A sneer curled his lip. "Well, well," Vane drawled. "I heard a rumor in town that you'd picked up a stray thorn. Didn't figure you for a garbage collector." I felt my knuckles turn white on the rifle. "Watch your mouth, Vane. You're on my land." "I'm here for my property," Vane spat. "That woman is my contracted wife. I paid $300 for her passage and fees. She belongs to me." "I am not a horse," Marcus Clara shouted, her voice ringing clear in the cold air. "You cannot own me," Vane laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Read the contract, darling. You work for me until the debt is paid. Since you weren't fit for my bed, you can scrub my floors. Pack your bag. You're coming with me." "She isn't going anywhere," I said, stepping forward. "This is a legal matter," Elias Sheriff Miller said nervously, shifting in his saddle. "Marcus has the papers. If she don't fulfill the contract, she owes him the money. If she can't pay, she has to work it off. That's the law." "I have a paper," Clara cried. She reached into her bodice and pulled out the crumpled letter Vane had given her at the crossroads. "What's that?" the sheriff asked. "The letter of dissolution," Clara said, walking down the steps past me to hand the paper up to the sheriff. Mr. Vane gave this to me when he dumped me in the snow. It says the contract is void. The sheriff read it squinting in the sun. He looked at Vane. This is your signature, Marcus. Says here you dissolve all bonds and claims and sever the arrangement effective immediately. Vane's face went purple. I changed my mind. I have the right to reconsider, not after you left her to die. I cut in. My voice was low, dangerous. You left a woman without a coat 5 miles from town in a blizzard? Sheriff, what's the penalty for attempted murder in this territory? The sheriff looked at Vane, his eyes hardening. Pretty high, Marcus. If she died, you'd be looking at a noose. She didn't die, Vane roared. She's right there, and she's been shacking up with this dirt farmer for 3 days. She's a whore the world went red. I didn't consciously decide to move. One moment I was standing still, the next I'd crossed the distance. I grabbed Vane's leg and ripped him out of the saddle. He hit the snow with a heavy thud. Before Silas could draw his gun, I had the muzzle of my Winchester pressed against Vane's forehead. Don't, I shouted at Silas. You twitch and your boss loses his head. Silas froze, hands raised. Vane stared up at me, eyes wide with shock. He wasn't used to men touching him. You called her a name, I whispered, pressing the cold steel into his skin. Apologize. You're crazy, Vane gasped. Apologize, I roared. All right, Vane scrambled back in the snow. I take it back. I stepped back, keeping the gun trained on him. Get on your horse. Get off my land. If you ever come near her again, if you ever say her name again, I will hunt you down. Vane scrambled up mud and snow, staining his fine coat. He mounted his horse, his hands shaking with rage. You think you've won? He hissed, looking from me to Clara. You think you can live here? I own this valley. I own the bank. I own the store. I will starve you out. I will make sure no one buys your cattle. I will make sure you rot. Get out, I said. He spurred his horse and galloped away, snow kicking up in his wake. The sheriff lingered for a moment, tipping his hat to Clara. I'll file this letter, ma'am, he said. You're a free woman, but watch your back. He's a spiteful man. When they were gone, silence returned. But it was different now. It wasn't lonely. I turned to Clara. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. He's right, she sobbed. He'll ruin you. Elias, I have to leave. I can't let him destroy your life. I walked to her and took her face in my hands. Her skin was warm now. My life? I asked. Clara, look around. Before you came here, this wasn't a life. It was just an existence. I was just waiting to die. But he will take everything. Let him take the cattle, I said fiercely. Let him take the land. I can build again. I can work, but I cannot go back to the silence. Not now. Not after I've heard your voice. She searched my eyes, looking for any sign of hesitation. You would risk everything for a stranger, she whispered. You are not a stranger, I said. I feel like I've been waiting for you for 34 years. She let out a breath that was half laugh, half sob, and threw her arms around my neck. I held her tight, burying my face in the smell of her hair, wood smoke, and lavender. I will stay, she promised. I will work beside you. We will face him together. Chapter 4. The Siege of Whispers. Vane was a man of his word when it came to cruelty. The winter that followed was the hardest of my life, not because of the weather, but because of the isolation. When we went to town to be married by the parson, the church was empty. The ladies of the town turned their backs when Clara walked by. The storekeeper, a man I'd known for years, refused to sell us seed on credit, mumbling about orders from above. Vane spread lies. He told people Claire was a harlot I'd ordered from a brothel. He told people I had stolen his money. We struggled. We ate venison and stored potatoes. We patched our clothes until they were more patch than cloth. But inside the cabin there was light. Claire was a force of nature. She learned to shoot. She learned to skin a rabbit. She took the rough wool of my sheep and spun it into yarn knitting socks that were warmer than anything you could buy in a store. One evening in late February, a letter arrived. A boy dropped it at our fence and ran away. It was addressed to Clara. She opened it by the fire, her hands trembling. "It's from Boston," she said, her face draining of color. It says my mother is alive. It says she's in a sanatorium, and if I don't send $500 immediately, they will turn her out onto the street." I took the letter. The handwriting was jagged, desperate. $500, she whispered. "Elias, I have to go back. I have to find a way to help her." I looked at the postmark. Then I looked at the paper. "Clara," I said gently, "look at the ink. It's smeared here on the corner. It smells like kerosene." I held it to her nose. "Vane owns the general store," I said. "He owns the kerosene supply. And this paper, this is the same stock the sheriff uses for wanted posters. I think your mother is at peace," I said. "I think Vane is trying to break you." Anger, pure and white-hot, replaced the fear in her face. "He is trying to trick me into leaving you. Are you going to let him?" She took the letter and threw it into the fire. We watched it burn the flames, turning green from the chemicals in the ink. "No," she said. "I am done running." The breaking point came in March. The town meeting. Vane had called it to discuss morality in the valley, a thinly veiled attempt to drive us out officially. We walked into the town hall hand in hand. The room went silent. Vane stood at the podium looking smug. "Here they are," Vane announced. "The stain on our community." I let go of Clara's hand and stepped forward. I didn't shout. I didn't threaten. I just spoke to the men I had known for 5 years. "Jim," I said to the blacksmith, "remember when your barn burned down, who came and helped you raise a new one?" Jim looked at his boots. "You did, Elias." "Sarah," I said to the baker's wife, "when your little girl was lost in the woods, who tracked her for 2 days and brought her home, Sarah bit her lip, tears in her eyes. You did." I turned to Vane. "This man," I pointed, "what has he ever done for you except take your money and buy your land when you're down on your luck? He left a woman to freeze to death." "Is that the leader you want?" Vane sputtered. "He lies. She's enough, it was Sarah." She stood up. "I'm tired of being afraid of you, Marcus Vane. Elias is a good man. And his wife. She knits socks for the orphanage. I've seen her." "Sit down," Vane shouted. "No," the blacksmith stood up. "She's right. My credit is no good at your store, Marcus Fine. I'll trade with Elias." One by one they stood. The fear broke like a fever. Vane looked around the room, realizing that his money could buy land, but it couldn't buy respect. Not anymore. He stormed out of the hall, his boots clomping loudly on the floorboards, but nobody watched him go. They were looking at us. Claire squeezed my hand. "We won," she whispered. "Yeah," I smiled, kissing her knuckles. We survived the winter. Epilogue: the harvest 5 years later. The Wyoming spring is a miracle. The valley explodes in wildflowers, bluebell, Indian paintbrush, and wild rose. I sat on the porch watching a toddler chase a butterfly through the tall grass. My son, Jacob. He had his mother's gray eyes and my stubborn chin. Claire came out of the house, wiping her hands on her apron. She was fuller now, radiant with health and happiness. She placed a hand on my shoulder, her touch as grounding as the earth itself. "Rider coming," she said softly. I squinted at the road. It was a lone man slumped in the saddle of a tired horse. It was Marcus Vane. The panic of '93 had hit the country hard. Speculators like Vane, who lived on credit and cruelty, had been wiped out. The bank had taken his ranch. He was leaving the valley, drifting west like tumbleweed. He stopped his horse at our gate. He looked at the expanded cabin, the new barn, a healthy herd of cattle in the pasture. He looked at the flower garden Clara had planted. Finally, his eyes rested on her. He looked for the broken doll. He found a queen. Thorne, he nodded, his voice hollow. Mrs. Thorne. Vain, I said. I didn't feel anger anymore, just pity. I'm heading to California, he muttered. Gold, maybe. Good luck, Clara said. Her voice was kind. Vane looked confused. Why? He asked. Why aren't you cursing me? I left you for dead. Clara opened the gate and walked out to him. She looked up at the man who had tried to destroy her. Because Marcus, she said, you gave me the greatest gift of my life. He frowned. What she looked back at me, then at our son laughing in the grass. If you had been a decent man, she said, I might have married you. I might have lived in a cold big house with a man who didn't know me. But by casting me out, you pushed me to the only door that mattered. You pushed me to my real life. She smiled and it was blinding. So, thank you. Thank you for showing me who you were before it was too late. Vane sat there for a long moment, stunned by the grace he didn't deserve. He couldn't speak. He just nodded, turned his horse and rode slowly down the road, vanishing into the dust. I walked to the gate and wrapped my arms around my wife. You're a better Christian than me, I murmured into her hair. I still wanted to punch him. Clara laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a breeze. Let him go, Elias. We have work to do. The garden needs watering. Yes, ma'am, I said. I kissed her right there in the sunlight and thanked God for the blizzard, for the open door, and for the love that had thawed a frozen world. Enjoying these epic Wild West stories? Hit subscribe for more gripping tales of bravery, conflict, and unexpected heroes. Now, tap the video on screen to experience a story with a twist you'll never forget.